Welcome back to Buying Sandlot. Today, we're joined by Justin Hoeveler, President of U.S. Sports Camps, one of the largest youth sports operators in North America. U.S. Sport Camps works with hundreds of thousands of athletes each year through partnerships with some of the biggest brands in college athletics, including most recently UCLA. We discussed that new partnership with the softball team, the continued rise of girls' sports, what the World Cup could mean for soccer participation, and whether flag football can avoid some of the pitfalls that other youth sports have experienced as they've scaled. One quick note before we get started. This interview was recorded before U.S. Sport Camps announced its new partnership with Uber. And one more thing before we get into the episode, we want to thank Blackmagic Design Cameras for sponsoring this show. Listen, filming youth sports has come a long way. Organizations can now create new revenue streams from live broadcasts using the same products as professional teams. A hockey club in Michigan can use the same camera that the NHL uses behind the goal, and a baseball facility in California can afford the same cameras Disney used to shoot the latest Marvel movie. That's all thanks to Blackmagic Design, who makes it possible. Whether you are a sports facility, club, school, or coach, Blackmagic Design allows high-quality, affordable, and easy-to-learn multi-camera streaming and filming. Check out their studio cameras, production switchers, DaVinci Resolve editing and replay tools, and the Blackmagic Camera app on iPhone and Android. For more information, please go to blackmagicdesign.com. And now, let's get into the interview. We're here with Justin Hoeveler, President of U.S. Sports Camps. Justin, thank you for joining us. Recently announced in a partnership with UCLA Softball. We're obviously seeing exploding demand on that side of the sport. Just had an electric College World Series that just finished up. Just want to get your thoughts on what you're seeing in the softball space in terms of participation growth. How much does the upcoming LA Olympics impact your thinking around softball growth, and anything else you can touch on the partnership about?
Yeah, I mean, we're really excited to partner with UCLA. UCLA, I remember growing up and watching, their alumni win gold medals in the Atlanta Olympics and further Olympics. So always been on my radar. I think it's one of the most storied programs out there. So to partner with them and bring their brand, bring their ethos, bring their culture, bring their team to surrounding communities is super exciting for us. And yeah, as you mentioned, on a larger level, the growth of softball, the growth of girls sports in general, incredibly exciting. It's always been a place where we've been pretty strong, frankly, in terms of participation and supporting, both gender coaches. And so we're super excited about the momentum that you're seeing across the board. But for us, it's always kind of been part of our history. So it's cool to see it catching up and see it be on others' radars here.
Justin, I think you guys have about 25 softball camps in the network right now, partnerships with schools. Like the idea, like college football, like a helmet game where it's like you get two schools that have recognizable helmets. I mean, not that as they do wear a helmet, and there's a UCLA logo on the helmet and softball, obviously, but like how important is it for you guys to have a brand like UCLA in the network? I have to imagine that this attracts even more interested families.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's cool about this UCLA activation is that it's out in Fullerton. The camp is out in Fullerton. And so we're bringing this brand and helping grow the game beyond Westwood and beyond kind of, where the varsity team is playing. So, and that's been a growing area for us across the board. With Cal, we're doing the same thing. Virginia Tech, we've been doing the same thing and getting its soccer coaches out in the community running college style soccer camps, but in the surrounding area. So, yeah, I mean, love partnering with an institution like UCLA. It's a blue chip institution, obviously. Obviously a Nike school, which is great. But for us, it's really about kind of recognizing the power of a college program, the power of college sports, the need to continue to evolve what that team, what that department, what that brand means to the community. And it's been really exciting to see, a lot more integration in some ways, and just, think about the future of all the ways that kind of that brand is evolving within U Sports and within the community to continue to bring more visibility, more connection to fans of the program and new fans of the program.
I know you mentioned this one's at Fullerton. You said other, that's kind of a little bit different of what we talked about in the past. The idea of like the camp is on the campus, live in the dorms. I guess like when did you guys begin to branch out to having college coaches run it local to their campus but not on the campus? And B, like what are some of the advantages? Is that kind of it maybe open up the tent, so to speak, of who's participating?
Yeah, I mean, we opened up that model, 5-6 years ago in earnest, but there are some examples even before that of coaches that we worked with at a particular school that had built or were interested in building, a camp business outside of campus. Doug Bruno basketball camp is a great example of this. Doug Bruno, legendary women's basketball coach, has been running the Doug Bruno basketball camp in Naperville and other surrounding areas outside of DePaul and Lincoln Park for years, hosting 1,300 girls a summer and really building the preeminent girls basketball camp in the country. And we partnered with him in 16, 17, I think, to just allow him to continue to scale and support his growth in that space. And at the core, which is the services we provided for 50 years, allow him to focus on the competitiveness of DePaul women's basketball and try to win national championships. So, not necessarily a new concept, but I think, in this new day and age of college athletics and college athletic economics, more revenue generating opportunities both on and off campus for coaches and players is really important.
Yeah, I just find I was reporting on it back when they had the whole satellite camp craze with football, and I remember Jim Harbaugh at Michigan showed up in North Jersey, and then Rutgers had a rival camp at the same time, and a couple, 30 minutes away, and then they brought in Urban Meyer to kind of counter Harbaugh, and then all that stuff. So I think, and I have to imagine too, not necessarily for Fullerton, but in some cases, when you have two power leagues in the same state, that probably also allows you to kind of expand your exposure as a university, as an athletic program, to different people.
Yeah, there are NCAA rules about this, and so we are in compliance with those rules, and the coaches are in compliance on kind of the regional reach that you're allowed to have. So I don't know all the details of the Harbaugh camp. I remember the headlines for sure. I think he's always been one to push the envelope in all ways. But for us, it's been a regional approach with two of our best partners, with Stanford and Cal, with getting those coaches out into the community. And these coaches run amazing camps. Like they're super passionate about it and very thoughtful about the program and the content, and we love supporting coaches that are that passionate about, creating that unique sports experience in the summertime.
I know we've talked about this a little bit in the past, Justin, but we're seeing a lot more deals kind of come up. Like the Good Game comes to mind, a new platform with Kansas Athletics, where with NIL and everything, we're starting to see athletes get on these platforms and can kind of earn money to train youth athletes. Are you guys doing anything with, I know you obviously the main, working with the programs, with the coaches, but are we starting to see actual members of the team work the camps, and it's a NIL, opportunity for them?
I think players working camp has been around forever. Now in the NIL era, there are new ways to kind of expand that opportunity. I was not an NIL athlete, but when I was playing college tennis, I worked college camps in the summertime, and that added to the experience. I made a paycheck for the hours worked. Wasn't much, but I think we're still in kind of exploratory phase on that. we're talking with some of our best college partners about how we can increase those opportunities. There's below cap, above cap considerations on these as well. I think it is the future. But what makes us unique, and we have a ton of experience with this, is while there is technology and there is, like ways to go execute and activate programs at scale, a little bit easier. Like, this is still a very service heavy business and service driven business. So, any school that is, and any athlete that is considering, hey, using a platform that, has AI incorporated in it, and it feels really, turnkey, like, there's a lot that goes on in the summer camp experience and in hosting kids in the summer camp experience that I don't think can be fully automated yet. And so, like any good business, like any good, service provider, we are constantly pushing the envelope on what we can automate and push. But like our team supporting these camps only gets bigger because this is still a pretty manual enterprise.
Can you touch on a little bit? And I asked this because I was on your Wikipedia and I saw that in 1998. That's good. This is good. In 1998, you guys invested $80,000 to create a website that allowed for online camp registration, and that garnered over $1 million in revenue in 1 year, which is crazy because 1998, the internet comes out and everything. Now we see with AI and scaling and stuff. So I want to just know how you guys are. What you guys are using to automate right now? Any examples since you did mention it?
Yeah, I think that was actually, we got to check the Wikipedia page. That might have been a little bit earlier, but nonetheless, yeah, we were early on the online registration. Like, a lot of companies went 100% into that. For us, it was like, yeah, this actually kind of works in our core business, but like, maybe we should have gone a little bit deeper into that at the time. We joke about that. Yeah, I mean, automation in terms of creating marketing assets for sure, in terms of analyzing trends in camps is a huge one. I mean, using the latest AI tools for that, discovering a lot of insights in areas that used to kind of be a black box for us because we have so much scale, and it really enables us to inform the product in a time when youth sports trends and tastes are changing so quickly, and there's this premium on competitiveness. Like, as we've talked about, James, multiple times, we want to continue to stay in that fun and pressure-free zone. And so, going deeper there through greater insights from the latest AI tools, I would say, is number one area in which we've leveraged current evolution there.
I was gonna say, whether it was 1998 or earlier, I mean, good on you guys. I come from the newspaper world. I had grizzled veterans telling me about being in newsroom meetings in like 2000, and they asked the editor in chief, hey, what's our plan for the internet? And they're like, yeah, it's just a fad. Like, don't worry about this. Just do what you're doing. To piggyback off that, Justin, two-part. One, I guess, how important do you think in this whole, you can't vibe code your way through a sleepaway camp experience. So I guess, how important do you think it is for you guys to offer these very real in-person experiences that you can't duplicate with technology? And B, to that competitive point, I'm just curious. I know you played college sports. It's a lot of work on top of your schoolwork. Do you find that even if it's not like a super intense camp, there might be kids who think, I want to play college sport X, and then they come to camp and like, I still love the sport, but I don't know about doing this at Division I level? Do you kind of think that U.S. sports camp can kind of be a good, almost litmus test for a lot of kids to kind of decide what way they want to go in their career?
Yeah, let me tackle that one first. Yeah, I think, listen, like I grew up in the Bay Area. I would go watch Stanford and Cal and Santa Cruz sports, and I was inspired to play. Like, I created a dream for me to go play college sports, and so I went to those camps. I went to Cal camp, I went to Stanford camp, I went to camp at Santa Cruz and others, and just being on that campus, living in the dorm, working with college coaches, at any level, like whether you're aspiring to play or whether you're trying to make the varsity team. And those, you have D1, Pac 10 back in the day. RIP, bring it back.
It's on the way. I think they got 8. So there's
Yeah,
more to go.
yeah,
Stanford
We
and Cal will come back eventually.
need to get the right schools in there. But and then D3 at Santa Cruz, which is at the top of a lot of D3 athletic programs. Just you get a feel for what it's like, and it's inspirational, and not to mention incredibly beautiful campuses that just create kind of memorable camp experiences, incredible friendships and memories in their own. But your takeaway is, for me at least, it was, like I want to go do that someday. That's not the case for everybody, but even if you decide at the end of camp, like, hey, this is not for me, like that's still a worthy investment in some ways, right? Or maybe it's a different sport. Go try a different sport.
And just to go back to flag football for a second, I'm just curious your thoughts. I feel like flag football is like the first like emerging sport that is actually being built completely from scratch as it's emerging. Whereas you go like a sport like volleyball or even soccer, it had decades of slow, steady thing. And then I think especially with soccer, it's suddenly like, oh, we're not doing this the right way. This is total fragmentation. We have to fix this. And now the federation's trying to fix it. What are your thoughts on basically like, do you feel like flag can maybe avoid all of these pitfalls because it is being built as we kind of go and knowing everything that's happened in the past from volleyball, soccer, et cetera? Or is there still a risk because it's growing so fast? It's almost outgrowing the pace that you can reasonably build it.
I mean, you got a lot of people operating flag now, right? So I think it depends on kind of those organizations aligning on how they want to do it. And can they align on that? I don't know. I doubt it. Frankly, you have I-9's been running flag football for like 15 years and has been running it. And as you guys learned from Ron and our previous discussions, it's based on fun and participation and experimentation and being on a team for the first time and learning a sport for the first time. Of course, we want to evolve that. Of course, we want to take that great first experience and figure out what the next step is. I think the NFL flag product is similarly geared towards that, but you have a lot of different operators there. Mm-hmm. So the NFL carries such a large, influence on the evolution or the growth of this entire sport. From my view, I think it really depends on how they want to build this and how they want to grow it. And, we'll see how, obviously the Olympics are coming up. I can't pretend to know, the full development cycle for that team and how that's moving. But, I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned, as you mentioned, from soccer, from other club sports that I hope can be avoided in flag football. Like, let's keep it local. Let's keep it accessible. Let's keep it fun for as long as we can until we learn a lot from the Olympics. And we're like, okay, this is what it looks like, for the Olympic path, which, I can't say that we fully know now. We've never done it. So, I'm hopeful that kind of cooler minds will prevail here in terms of not making this an arms race and club and travel and competition and pricing kids out as we've seen in other sports. And let's keep it local. Let's keep it fun. And let's also work on coaching. Like, flag is not a big sport for us because we don't think that there's a lot of great coaches out there. It's a relatively new sport, and because you coach tackle doesn't mean you can coach flag. Like, I think that's been kind of our operating thesis, and we've seen that play out. So I think we're going to have to evolve those coaches and on both, boys and girls side. And, hopefully those with the most influence will want to build this in the right way, learning from, a ton of examples here.
What is the RCX Sports and BVG deal? What does that signal to you?
I don't know. I don't have a strong view on it, to be honest. Like Izel's a great guy. I've had many good conversations with him over the year, and Josh and the rest of their team, and I'm excited for them to start on their new chapter for sure. They've grown the game tremendously with the NFL flag license, and so where they go from here, I don't know what the next strategic pillars are for them in that sport, but that is the sport that they've really scaled well. I think they're might be looking to kind of focus it a little bit more on what the next iteration of scale looks like. But that's me kind of talking a little bit out of turn. I don't have a ton of insight.
We've talked so much about the World Cup. It's finally here. Like it's actually going to happen this week, believe it or not. I guess now that it's here and it's not like a hypothetical, I guess what are you looking for? I also in the newsletter on Wednesday, I talked to a sporting director at a big club who said like the worst thing we could do is base the success of this on what the U.S. men's national team does. Like we can't pay attention to what that happens there. Do you kind of agree with that sentiment?
I do. Yeah, I mean, I think soccer's become such a global game. I have a 7-year-old who's playing club soccer now. I'll admit it. And all of his buddies know all the global stars. So like, I think the interest level, versus the last World Cup and versus the World Cup before that, on a global stage is so much greater that people are going to be paying attention to every country. Obviously we want the U.S. to do really well and we'll be cheering, but like, I think interest will expand far beyond that. And yeah, I mean, from our lens, like we hope it really inspires more kids to play the sport. It's such a cool moment. It's such a global moment. It's such a cultural moment. And, for me, I went to the 94 World Cup with the USA versus Brazil. Like who would have thought at that time that was like near our apogee of success in this tournament? Like it felt like we were just taking off then. But like I'll never forget, we got tickets the day before. We were in the top of Stanford Stadium. We biked to the game, and I saw all these. I'd never seen people from Brazil before, or that level of a spirit of enthusiasm, and it was just such a memorable, transformational moment. And I just as a father, as a fan of sport, I hope that is. I mean, inevitably, that will be one of the big takeaways, especially for kids. And if that can inspire kids to want to play and pursue and see what this sport looks like at the highest possible level, like that's a win for everybody.
Last one for me. U.S. sports camps, you guys interact with hundreds of thousands of athletes every year. What are you seeing in terms of participation data trends that maybe the rest of the industry might not be seeing? Obviously, there's a goal of 63 and by 2030 to get young people playing sports by 2030. Anything that you guys are seeing? Do you think we'll be close to that goal by the time we hit 2030? I know that a lot of the data is from like 2024 now, so we kind of don't know what we're dealing with.
Yeah. I think the landscape has changed kind of by segment. Your parents and kids are starting earlier, which is great in most ways. I think you're seeing 14 to 18 spend their summers a little bit differently in sports. As we all know, kids are quitting sports by 13 at a high rate, if you believe that 70%. So on the 14 and then on the 14 to 18, I think you see more of the influence of club sports and more of the influence of exposure and just kind of this focus on the next level that kind of dominates that segment. So, for us, we're seeing, different sports with different participation. Golf is having a moment for sure. James, I think we've talked about that in the past as well. Still seeing that, which is great, and girls volleyball and basketball, and we're yeah, I mean we're trending a little bit younger in our demo, on an average basis. And I think you're seeing younger kids want more out of a camp product and out of their summer sports experience than they used to. I mean, I think they're coming in with a little bit more of an agenda, which is great. Like we win in that environment because our camps are really, really good and develop skills. So yeah, those are the overall trends. But we're 3 weeks into the summer, and we'll have more insights for you probably in a couple months.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for this. We appreciate it. Congrats on the partnership with UCLA and the success and everything. You guys do a great job over there, and we really appreciate you coming on, especially in the thick of the busy season.
I appreciate you guys. Appreciate the love. Always want to be helpful. Let me know if I can be helpful back to you.